Now to join our discussion, we're pleased to call on political commentator Michael Reagan. You can follow him on Twitter at Reagan World. Michael, a couple of themes here. First, from Miranda's report, when your dad was elected, it was called the religious right. What we might call this group right now, overwhelming evangelicals in terms of overwhelming support for Donald Trump. It's worth a second look. 81% of the evangelical Christian community voted for Donald Trump. Certainly, the new commander-in-chief will have to take into account the concerns of this vital constituency.
Well, it was the moral majority with my dad back there in 1980. But, you know, think about this. Had the Christian community, if the evangelicals had showed up 4 years ago, Mitt Romney would have been president of the United States of America. They didn't. Shame on them. They showed up this time. But at the same time, remember, you had more blacks voting for Donald Trump than voted for Mitt Romney. You had more Hispanics, percentage-wise, voting for Donald Trump than they did for Mitt Romney. And you take all of that, put it together, it shows you the win from, in fact, Donald Trump.
Now, another thing we need to talk about, we touched on earlier in the program, and that is something your dad went through for his administration. Every president goes through it, the transition, that first meeting with the predecessor. A little different for your dad because he had defeated the man in office after one term, Jimmy Carter. But history reminds us, and certainly the rhetorical stance of the Carter White House was that they very much wanted a smooth transition. What do you remember of your dad's transition into the presidency?
Well, it was a smooth transition between my father and President Carter. It wasn't such a smooth transition between Mrs. Carter, because I think even today she thinks my father cheated, and that's why Jimmy Carter didn't get a second term as president of the United States. But it was very smooth. And you might also remember, on the day that my father was inaugurated, my father turned to President Carter and gave him Air Force One and invited him to take Air Force One and fly back to Germany to pick up the hostages that had been there for over 400 days. So my father's very magnanimous in fact, doing that. My father didn't get a lot of publicity for that, but he said to Jimmy Carter, listen, this happened on your watch. You deserve to bring our boys home, and gave him Air One.
So that magnanimity, as Jimmy Carter was leaving office, as a former president, in essence, being the special envoy of the new president to go meet with the hostages, indeed magnanimous. Now, I don't know if we describe it as magnanimity, but at least today there was, it seemed to be an atmosphere of reconciliation in addition to outright courtesy. Let's take a look at what happened and listen to what President Obama had to say.
As I said last night, my number one priority in the coming 2 months is to try to facilitate a transition that ensures our president-elect is successful. I want to emphasize to you, Mr. President-elect, that we now are going to want to do everything we can to help you succeed, because if you succeed, then the country succeeds.
Now, certainly it looks mighty good, but I guess we have to marvel, Michael, at the fact that politics ain't beanbag, and just last week, Barack Obama was accusing Donald Trump of all sorts of misdeeds. Do the words today, I guess the words today can't even rank with the votes of Tuesday, but what do they do to help prepare the nation for this transition?
Yeah, the nation should wake up and see what the President of the United States did today and the words he used instead of these fools, you know, marching around California and other places out there and rioting, if you will. Last week, when the president was saying that during the campaign, Donald Trump was just campaigning for president. Today, Barack Obama was looking at his next president. And that's a whole different situation than what it was last week. And I will tell you this, that today, when Donald Trump entered the Oval Office, Donald Trump became a changed man, because now it is also different for him. And I remember sitting down with my father and asking him about the presidency. He said, you know, Michael, there's a big difference between being elected president and then that day that you actually become the President of the United States, because the weight of the world now is on your shoulders. And today, that weight started to shift from Barack Obama to, in fact, Donald Trump. And he'll start feeling it, and we pray he makes the right decisions.
Now, something else happened today that's just as important, because your dad had a situation where when he was elected in 1980, he brought a Republican Senate with him, but the Democrats still controlled the House. Very different story for Mr. Trump. Republican majorities in both the House and Senate. What do you think the reception was up on the Hill between Speaker Ryan and Leader McDonnell and the president-elect? Got about a minute left.
I think on the Hill it was very good. Listen, the Republicans haven't had all three branches of government in a long time, and now they've got to find a way to work together. They work together. They can make a lot of changes for the good for America, lower taxes, what have you, a stronger America. Remember, my father said, you know, while he was alive, America fought 4 wars, none of which were fought because America was too strong.
My old colleague Mike Pence, a former member of the House, now going to become the vice president, meaning he presides over the Senate. Will Pence's experience in the House help smooth things over with Speaker Ryan and the other folks on the Hill? About 30 seconds.
Yeah, I imagine so, because of his background on the Hill. And I'm sure Donald Trump will go to him and get advice, or he'll go to Donald Trump and, in fact, give advice to him to get things done on the Hill. But again, he's going to have Paul Ryan. He's going to have others there. We don't need to be fighting right now our own. We need to be getting, in fact, we have all 3 branches of government. Let's not try to blow up our own side in the Congress. We may not agree with them all the time, but right now, the Republicans have a chance to change the dynamic of where we're going. And if they do the right thing, they'll be in charge for a long time.
Wise words tonight from Michael Reagan via Skype from Southern California. Michael, we very much appreciate your time. So, what will Donald Trump get accomplished in his first 100 days? Our radio roundtable discusses that and more when we come back.